Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the breakdown video for the rematch between Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr., the former unified champ, as they will collide again for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world. That fight takes place Saturday, October 15th on ESPN. And it's coming from Australia again. The first fight took place back in June, so we're just about 4.5 months removed from that fight, where Devin Haney went into the Lion's Den of Australia, dominated George Kambosos over 12 rounds to a unanimous decision, completely outboxed him and outclassed him, and left no doubt who the better man was at the time. But Kambosos smartly forced a rematch clause into the contract prior and is exercising that rematch clause right away. And I have to applaud that. Kambosos, something has to come from you pulling off an upset like he did over Teofimo Lopez last year. And this was a very smart, calculated move by him to insist on a rematch, mandatory rematch, if he wanted to exercise it, and he did. Excuse me. So now these two guys are going to collide again in Australia. So as I do with the breakdown, I always do with the breakdown videos, if it's a non-title fight, we go with the favorite and then the underdog. In a title fight, it's the champion and then the challenger. Ask the same questions across the board, break the fight down equally, and then we ask the last two questions at the end. First, is it better for boxing if one or the other wins? And then second, I give my prediction on the fight. So let's start with the champion, the undefeated, undisputed lightweight champion of the world, Devin Haney. Haney heads into this fight coming off of that monster win. And actually, I usually talk about the last 2 or 3 fights. His biggest wins have been, and most significant wins have been, his last 3 fights, dating back to last year in May, I believe, when he defeated Jorge Linares. He got stunned at the end of that fight, but he dominated Linares over the 12 rounds to a unanimous decision. A little bit of controversy. He held on pretty hard in that fight once he got hurt. I believe the ref should have taken points away. That didn't happen. But either way, he won the fight. It was significant. And then he took on Jojo Diaz in his first, or in his next title defense back in December. He took on Jojo Diaz and completely outboxed Jojo Diaz. Diaz was competitive, but Haney was just better and got a clean unanimous decision there. And then he dominated George Kambosos in June. So this guy has completely taken the lightweight division by storm. He's the undisputed champ, and he has big fights on the horizon. But he's got to get by Kambosos again. He did everything that he said he was going to do, even with his dad not being able to go to Australia for the fight, and having to get Yoel Judah to be his trainer that night. I mean, he's passed every test. He went into the Lion's Den and he defeated Kambosos. So he's supremely confident rolling into this fight, and I think he's coming in knowing that and believing that he's the best in the world. So what kind of style does Haney need to have in order to beat George Kambosos again? And I think he pretty much just needs to do the same thing that he did the first time. If I'm him, I don't believe he needs to go into full-on attack mode trying to stop Kambosos, but if he's that confident, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But he's got to be careful and wary, because that's how Lopez got hurt, and that's, in my opinion, how Lopez got beat when Lopez went head hunting. If Haney makes the mistake of doing that, he definitely can get caught and hurt, and then I think he can get beat. But I don't think he can get outboxed. But if he decides to trade with Kambosos instead of boxing, he's going to really do himself a disservice, and that can really work against him. But if he goes in there, same mentality, I'm going to box, maybe take a little bit more risk, but I'm going to box and counterpunch then I absolutely think he can win this fight again. Now, can Devin Haney defeat George Kambosos by knockout? The truth is I don't know. Because we don't know how aggressive Haney's going to be and how much he's going to sit down on his punches. If he sits down on his punches and decides to go for broke, he might be able to stop Kambosos. He might. But I think it's the only way he does that is by sitting down on his punches a little bit more, taking a little bit more risk, but still breaking Kambosos down. Kambosos does come in really good shape, but I think Haney's going to have to break down the body and just land crisp, clean counter punches and sit down on those counter punches, which means he's going to have to stay in the pocket a little longer in order to stop him. And that leads to the next question. Can Haney win this fight by decision? Absolutely. He dominated the first fight, won a clean decision. He can absolutely win the second fight by a decision. Will he? We'll see, but he absolutely can do it again. Now, what does a win here mean for Devin Haney? And it means everything. This fight is maybe more important than the first fight. And the reason I say that is he's already champion, and as the old saying goes, it's harder to hold on to the title than it is to win the title, because now you're the target. But here's the kicker. When you're the man, you naturally look to the future on what big opportunities are on the horizon. And we already know that a Lomachenko fight is there, sitting there, waiting for him. As far as Lomachenko beats Jermaine Ortiz, which most people feel he will, a couple weeks after Kambosos, then, Kambosos and Haney too, that fight's almost for sure and good to go. And if he beats Lomachenko, if he were to beat Lomachenko, then the sky's the limit with everybody else. You got Shakur Stevenson coming up in weight to 135. You got Ryan Garcia still potentially sitting there. And you also have maybe Tank Davis. But if he wants, he can move up to 140, where Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, a bunch of fights are there. And Haney is only obligated for 3 fights with Top Rank, but he's already in the door at Top Rank, and all the major fights are at 135 and 140 if Haney gets through Kambosos. That's the big thing. Can he get past George Kambosos in their rematch? So a win means everything. What does a loss mean for for Haney? It would be devastating to him right now, because he's already proven that he was far and beyond better than Kambosos. So the rematch, nobody's expecting him to lose now. So yeah, a loss will be devastating, absolutely devastating for him. And he really doesn't need to go into the rematch overconfident, thinking, I got him the first time, this is going to be a cakewalk. Because again, that's how Teofimo Lopez lost the first time. And I think most people still to this day, and I do, believe that Teofimo Lopez isn't just better than Kambosos, he's considerably better than Kambosos, but Kambosos defeated him that night nonetheless, and Haney doesn't need to make that same mistake in this rematch. So a loss really would hurt him, it would derail everything, and he can't afford that. Now, moving on to the challenger, the former unified champ, George Kambosos Jr. Kambosos heading into this one has his last 3 fights have been, pretty much the biggest of his career as well. He defeated Lee Selby back in October of 2020. I think it was 2020. He defeated Lee Selby there to become the mandatory challenger for the IBF title. And then in 2021, in November of 2021, he finally got his crack against Teofimo Lopez. And it wasn't just the IBF title, he got a crack at the unified title against Lopez. And he pulled off a monster upset, winning a split decision as they traded knockdowns in that fight, and became the top guy at lightweight. Then he was supposed to fight Lomachenko, but Lomachenko pulled out due to the war in the Ukraine, and Devin Haney was offered the fight, and he went in there and got dominated against Devin Haney over 12 rounds at home. So heading into this one, Kambosos, unless he's just taking this fight for the money, Which, hey, that could be it. Maybe he doesn't believe that he can win. But Kambosos, to me, seems like one of those guys where he does believe he can win at all costs, no matter what. And I think he's going to go into this fight with that attitude. But I do believe he's going to try to make adjustments. Whether the adjustments work, I don't know. But I definitely think he's going to try to make adjustments and beat Devin Haney in the rematch. But got to wait and see. But what kind of style does Kambosos need to have to win this fight? Well, it's tough to say. If I'm Kambosos, I'm fighting off my back foot and forcing Haney to come to me so I can draw Haney in. If Kambosos is smart, he'll fight that way. He does not need to fight him in the middle of the ring. He does not need to come forward, in my opinion. But he can mix all three up and fight in the middle of the ring. But I believe he loses if he exclusively comes forward or forces a fight to the middle. But if he can fight off his back foot and force Haney to come to him and make it a dog fight like that, then absolutely he can win the fight. He also has to, but that's not his style in particular. So if he forces the fight to the middle, he's gonna have to get on the inside of Haney and land shot after shot after shot. And, you know, he's gonna have to land some very crisp, clean counter punches and hope that he can hurt Devin Haney, which I think he can. So that's what he needs to do to try to win this fight. And hey, hoping that Devin Haney's maybe a little bit overconfident, that might help too. Can he win this fight by knockout? To be honest, I think it's more likely that he beats Haney by knockout than a decision. Haney's got a decent chin, but he has been hurt before. Jorge Linares proved that. And Linares isn't a huge power puncher. He's just a well-timed puncher. And if Kambosos can time Devin Haney, I think he can catch him, and I think he might be able to hurt him and potentially stop him. But he's got to land a good counter shot perfectly timed, or lead shot perfectly timed, you know, and he's got to land multiple ones, in my opinion. But I do think it's possible that he could stop Devin Haney. Now, can he win the fight by a decision? I'm leaning towards the less likely, unless he can force Haney to fight the same kind of fight that Teofimo Lopez was forced into in their fight, in his fight with Lopez. But, you know, I don't know if he can do that with Devin Haney. Devin Haney's such a good boxer and counterpuncher. It's going to be very hard for him to win a decision. Now, what does a win here mean for Kambosos? Well, it means everything. Not only does he become undisputed champion, but he avenges his only defeat, and he becomes a top dog again, and puts himself in line, in direct line for a showdown with Vasily Lomachenko, you know, and potentially other fighters down the road, other top tier fighters down the road. But, you know, so it would mean everything. It absolutely would. It would most likely top his win over Teofimo Lopez, just because he would become undisputed champ and defeat the guy that beat him. But, you know, we got to wait and see. But definitely a win for Kambosos here would be huge. Now, what does a loss mean for George Kambosos? A loss, you know, here's a kicker. I don't think a loss really hurts Kambosos all that much, for a couple reasons. One, nobody's expecting him to win the rematch because of the way the first fight went. Whether people want to say that Haney was boring and that's just what you get, or if people just want to say that Haney is just that much better than him, I don't think a loss really hurts Kambosos in terms of his future. I think his future is set. I think he's got that kind of style that looks beatable, and he can draw a fight because he talks shit and everything. So I think he's pretty much set up for life. Why not go after the money and the belts and do it? He basically is going into this fight with nothing to lose, saying fuck it, and it's not a bad attitude to have heading into this one. Nobody's expecting me to win. I'm gonna go prove everybody wrong, and if I can't, well, oh well, I tried. I think he's really set up. So, you know, it's funny. I really don't think a loss hurts Kambosos all that much. You know, that's just my opinion. Now, the final two questions here. First off, is it better for boxing if Haney wins this fight, Devin Haney, if he retains the Undisputed Championship, or if George Kambosos wins? And the truth is, even though Kambosos is probably, in terms of his attitude and you know, marketability, I think it's better for boxing if a young guy like Devin Haney wins this fight, because it adds a future star to the sport. Still, it keeps a future star rolling, undefeated, and it sets up big time fights with Lomachenko and other guys down the road. Now, it's not to say that if Kambosos were to win, that it wouldn't do the same thing, but I really believe that Haney's looked at as a very dangerous, potentially pound for pound guy in the next couple years if he can beat Kambosos and defeat Lomachenko and so on. With Kambosos, I don't think we're seeing the same thing. You know, we see the same thing with him, the unknown of how good he is. I think we pretty much know how good he is, you know, and he's not one of the best in the sport, but he's solid and he's got a ton of heart. So again, it wouldn't be bad if Kambosos got his revenge, but I think it's better for boxing if Devin Haney wins this fight. Now, my prediction. Who do I think is going to win this fight between Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr.? And I'm picking Devin Haney. He dominated the first fight. I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive in the rematch, and it's going to be a little bit more entertaining than the first fight. But I still think he's going to dominate George Kambosos and win a convincing decision here, because I just think he's night and day better than Kambosos. Stylistically, the matchup works for him better. But I do believe Kambosos has a chance, has a puncher's chance here to land something big and hurt Haney and potentially stop him, especially if Haney is over-aggressive or he's overlooking George Kambosos. Those are two mistakes that Haney could make, and it could cost him. So we'll see what happens, but I think Devin Haney's going to win this fight and retain the undisputed lightweight championship of the world and set up a major showdown with Vasily Lomachenko in the first half of next year. But that's it. That's what I got. That is the breakdown video for Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, as they will collide for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world in a rematch on Saturday, October 15th on ESPN from Australia. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.